What is it?
I don't know. Sounds like this.
Why is that doing that? Oh, good. You got rid of it.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Good job.
We're just about ready to start here.
Just about ready to start, but then it started early once. Okay, 7 o'clock. I can talk. Bing, bing.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the tavern. Jack and Dennis with you here. Jack, I'm a good-looking guy. So tonight, Jack and I can talk
Not
about.
everybody's not wearing their glasses like you.
That's why I say I'm good-looking. I'm looking at myself. Jack's going to talk about progressivism in America tonight.
Well, where it started.
Where it started.
Yeah.
And where it's going to go if we don't do something about it.
It's very interesting where it started.
And I was going to do something else, but I'll get into why I'm doing this topic. It's mental health in America. But Jack, like I said, Jack's going to start off. But before he does, I just want everyone to give a definition of progressivism for all to think about as he discusses this. It's an extremely important topic for all of us. This is according to Webster's Dictionary. Progressivism is the principles, beliefs, or practices of progressives. Okay, we have a lot of progressives in our government right now. Capitalize the political and economic doctrines advocated by the progressive. What are they trying to do? Look at the Biden-Sanders manifesto.
Which we did a show on
A
that.
6-part series on that.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, read it.
Read it.
The theories of progressive education. What are these politicians trying to do to our kids today? Indoctrinate them on progressivism.
Well, I got where they learned it from.
All right, it's all yours.
We're gonna do the pledge.
Oh yeah, stand up for the pledge, please. Sorry, right that one.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry about that, folks.
Whose phone is ringing?
That's mine.
You. Oh, it's your computer phone or the phone my son's been asking you to lower for the last 2 hours?
Oh, that one's low. This one.
Oh, it's the TV doing it? It was the computer one? All right, well, we can't do anything about that, Jack.
Yeah, we can't do nothing about that, Jack.
Take it easy, Jack. Take it easy. So I just wanted a little flashback for folks. So personally, it looks like the Democratic Party is turning more and more like the war party. Just with local news, what's going on, everything is going. Oh, well, we're going to go to war. We're going to go to war with Taiwan, war with China, Russia with Ukraine, Iran. Anybody says anything, and you want to know why? Because these people that are part of the Democratic Party, Socialist Party, they mock people that want to debate. So there's no diplomacy anymore. Diplomacy is against their religion because they don't have religion anymore. And I'll show you part of the founding of progressivism shows you they do not believe that the word of God, the word of your creator, has anything to do with where you are today. Then I was just watching how President had a speech in front of the UN. Pathetic.
That was yesterday.
Very, very pathetic. So I just want to know where we're living when China, Iran, North Korea, Afghanistan, inflation, shortages, supply chain problems.
So
None of this is an issue.
We're like a third world country now.
The only thing he talked about was Russia stepping over their bounds and how we don't want to make people make a decision if they want to be China's friend or the United States friend. I got news for you, folks. China's making people make that decision. And one of the countries that they're trying to make a decision on that for, and they're leaning towards China, actually, they're in bed with China now, unfortunately, because they were so scared of China, is India. India used to be, on our side. They're not on our side anymore. Turkey now is part of the same group as Iran, Russia, China. Now you can add Turkey in it, and India. So you got those 5 countries. Whoop, they're best pals. So, but this was not mentioned yesterday at the UN. Wasn't mentioned. Nothing about China, just that we don't want to be competing with China. We don't want to make anybody choose. We don't want to do that. Just how Russia went out of bounds. Oh, and that global warming is the biggest problem. Not inflation, not interest rates. Interest rates went up 0.75 of a point. So that means housing markets. That's to buy a house with perfect platinum credit. You're starting at 7%. 7%. Bing. Can I buy a house? Can you afford 7%? All right. So they're still attacking the Trump family. Same time yesterday, the Attorney General of New York filed a personal lawsuit against Trump, his three of his kids, and any associates for $250 million.
Hey, but she lets these criminals get away with anything.
Well, there you got the Attorney General from New York, but you got crime is spiking. I mean, there's nothing for her to do.
Her name's Latita James.
Yeah, she's just sitting there twiddling her thumbs because the issues of crime are so under wraps and taken care of right now that she can worry about personal lawsuits, monetary problems, because the crime rate in New York is fine. But let me tell you something, New York, you have a governor's race coming up, and you better elect a person that's going to worry about your interest and not these progressive socialists.
If it wasn't for the city itself, last election, Cuomo would have lost. Because the guy took like 48 counties or 50 counties upstate. He took all the counties north of the Tappan Zee.
Listen, we can't prove it because we don't have any staff or anything, but my personal opinion, states like New York have been practicing the etiquettes of what happened in 2020 presidential election for years. Because if you look at the map of New York, you have a very small selection of spots in New York that are blue, and the rest of that state
It's all
is red. So I get it. The 5 boroughs, 8 million people. But Long Island, most of Long Island's red. There's got to be 8 million people on Long Island now. All of upstate except for Albany and Buffalo, right? The rest of upstate is red. So how do these people keep getting all of that? Did you have a question, Mike?
Margaret said Zeldin.
Yeah.
Zeldin.
Yeah, he's running.
I just seen a report where New York City's crime is up, their unemployment is up, and their housing is unaffordable, and people are moving out left and right.
Plus their migrants are going up.
Yeah. So it seems like another little thing. So the founding fathers were so smart, and they put into the government that they had created and the declaration that they put in it the word of God. You have not inalienable rights because of what? Because your creator put you that way. When your creator developed you, you have this certain urge to be able to do these certain things. When you break down things into society, you know what happens, folks? I mean, just think about it. This is my opinion again. When you break things down into societal groups, then it turns into warring factions. White against black, rich against poor, Democrats against Republicans. Every faction that you put out there as a separate society without no beliefs and no ability to find common ground, it turns into a warring faction.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, all right. I'm sorry I went down that. I just wanted to get a few. Oh, and again, the attacks on the Trumps. Let me tell you something, folks. I don't know personally myself. You tell me if I'm wrong. You tell me if you feel the same way I feel. Jack and Mike, you tell me too. I don't think these attacks are for the purposes of. I mean, it's serving two points. They want to get Trump and his family out of the way. Number one.
They're so afraid of this guy.
But I think the biggest thing of this, that because it just continues, methodical one after another, these attacks on this family. But I always had this feeling like, while the bureaucracy, while they're doing it, they're like this, they're attacking Trump, but they're looking at us going,
How much can we
you see what we're doing to your guy? This man is a billionaire, associated with billionaires and millionaires. We tried to give you a chance with January 6th, but you're not listening to us. We put it on primetime TV to tell you, if you don't go our way, look at what happened to January 6th. You see what we're doing to your guy?
It's a fear tactic.
Right. They're trying to get the point out to you folks. That's why it's run on the news 24/7. They don't care about Trump. Trump's at the end, he's an older guy. What they care about is making sure you're learning the lesson that they're putting this guy over so you get it. Put 2 and 2 together, will you guys? Look what we're doing. This is a man that used to be the president of the United States and a billionaire. This man has means. You have no means. So if you don't get in line, now we just passed a law. We got 87,000 IRS agents that are going to be heading your way. The FBI has been doing everything we've been telling you to do. Okay, that was just my little rant. Sorry.
Yeah,
It was a rabbit hole I had to go. Do you think so?
Oh,
What about
yeah.
you, Jack? Dennis?
Fear tactic.
I think, yeah. So now, this group of animals that are in Washington, D.C. now, the jellyfish and the socialists, where did this progressive thought come from?
I like that. Jellyfish and socialists.
Yeah, the hammer and sickle and the jellyfish flag. That's the Republicans and the Democrats for newcomers. The hammer and sickle is the Socialist Democrat Party. Democrats not a Democratic Party anymore, socialist. And the Republicans, we got rid of their elephants because they are no longer allowed to be a noble animal. They're a jellyfish.
And what's
They have no
Biden, SpongeBob SquarePants?
Biden is like a kid blowing bubbles. He doesn't. He just, he don't care about anything right now. He just wants to be home. So, what is progressivism? It's the belief that modern life is so complex that the government developed by the founding fathers cannot keep up with it. All right? So, I'm going to ask the same question over and over again because this is truly what the beginning progressives thought, which started out with Teddy Roosevelt. He had started a progressive thing, and it really that's why you have a big property issue with the Supreme Court. If the government wants to take your property, they're going to take it because of Teddy Roosevelt. He wasn't a true Republican. He was a progressive. But the true progressive, the first progressive, was Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was the first progressive, and he ended up being a president. So I'm going to go through and explain where this comes from. So institutional change in policies is a New Deal predict. So what happened was you had progressivism with Teddy Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson. Now, Teddy Roosevelt didn't change a lot of things, but he put the issues out there for later on to be changed. Woodrow Wilson was a true progressive who he got a few things changed. Number one, he got the taxes. In the Constitution, every state, every person was supposed to be taxed the same. And he got rid of the state legislators electing your U.S. senator, because the U.S. senator that goes to Washington used to be elected by the state legislators, so you had a direct link from the people of your state to Washington, D.C. So the founding fathers, being brilliant because they understood human nature, said, listen, there's going to be parts of this continent that are going to have high population, so we cannot elect the executive office through a true majority. It's got to go through an electoral college, which we explained last week how the electoral college goes. And if you have any questions, you let me know and I'll explain it to you. Representatives, a U.S. representative is elected through a true majority of that district that they belong to, and they get elected and they go to the U.S. The Senate used to be elected through the state legislators, so you had a whole bunch of different groups and states, look at New York again, like we were saying, and they could go up to Washington, D.C. So what this happened was you had these two people from your state that went to Washington, D.C. They didn't care what was going on in Washington, D.C. because their direct tie was to the state that they come from. So Woodrow Wilson saw this and said, we got to get rid of it, 17th Amendment. So the type of government we have in America today is shaped politically theory of the progressives and their rejection of the principles of the Declaration and the Constitution. They didn't believe in the Declaration of Independence. They believed that the Declaration of Independence was a good document if you took out the preface of it, which was, we're born with these inalienable rights, and you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and it left just the complaints against the king, which then, if that wasn't the case, then why write it? And the Constitution, they felt, was written after, the socialists believed in Darwinism, and the progressives said that we founded the Declaration, the Constitution after what the hell's his name? Damn it.
Most people don't understand. They have a diverse array of reformers. It's not just the Democrats, folks, that are progressives.
No. Well,
There's Republicans out there too.
Well, I'm going to show you why the Republicans are that way now. Anyway, so progressives started out with Woodrow Wilson said, listen, the only difference between socialism and progressivism is that socialists want to make the changes through revolution, and progressives want to change it periodically. Like, sew it in. Like, sew a patch into old cloth. Weave it in so it looks natural. So why do you think they said that? He said that knowing that people weren't going to give up their freedoms for socialism, because that's what it was. They thought, progressives thought, that government was becoming less of a danger to the governed and more capable of solving great problems of society. So in other words, what they're saying was, years ago, when the founding fathers found this, it was monarchs, and they were so uncouth and so stupid. They didn't have enough historical ethics to understand that you cannot go and have the word of God running government, which it doesn't. But your rights are not given to you from God. It's given to you from the government.
Many of the progressives, they view themselves as principled reformers. At a critical juncture of American history, just like the squad right now. They think they know what they're doing, but they don't even know the Constitution. They don't even know the three branches of government.
No.
They
don't know the three branches of government because they believe in two branches of government. And the two branches of government that they believe are administrative and executive. Not executive. They believe in administrative and what the hell's the name of the other one?
The funny part, this all started in the early 20th century, and look where we are now.
Yeah.
Corrupt politicians who become wealthy millionaires, supporting lobbyists for special interests. They don't give a damn what we think or care about.
So for the progressives, the biggest mistake the founding fathers was that the belief that their principles were timeless. And why was it timeless? Because the founding fathers said that the nature of man does not change.
That's right.
So the nature of man is always ends up looking out for themselves. It's a corruptible being. And that's why, certain religions believe Jesus Christ came down to sacrifice himself for our sins, because we're sinners.
I am.
So natural, man's nature,
It's simple.
progressives don't believe in that. They do not believe you get your rights and your thoughts from your creator. They believe you get it from government. Woodrow Wilson, like I said, he said, if you want to understand the true declaration, get rid of the preface, and then you'll have it. Frank Goodnow, he was one of the premier first progressives that was writing. Social expediency rather than natural rights is thus to determine the sphere of individual freedom of action. It says it right there. This is what these guys that are in office, not these people that are in office now, because they never learned anything. They just listen to doctrine and believe it. You know where progressives, they didn't come up with that here in the United States, progressivism. You know what country it came from?
Oh, I don't remember.
You?
England?
No.
Germany? Germany, right.
Oh.
Yep, it was imported from Germany. And they believed in a living constitution.
Ooh.
So how did the living constitution do for them during World War II? That's how Hitler got into office, because he was able to manipulate their constitution. And they actually suspended it and was able to get in there. Every constitution that ever changed with times, as times went on, failed. Rome, Germany, England, they all failed. Everyone that had a constitution, we were able to become an independent country from England because their constitution wasn't a written down law. It went along as time went by. They would add that, add that.
Listen closely to what he's saying, folks. We are so close to becoming a socialist society.
Yeah.
And we need to stand against it.
They are
listen
running.
very carefully.
The
to what it says.
Republicans, when I get into this later on, and if you need me to stop because you think it's too much
Couple
information,
more minutes.
I'll stop and let you go on. So progressive and democracy. Progressives' understanding of democracy and the powers of government was similar to the understanding of socialism. Socialism and democracy, Wilson argued that both the progressives and the socialists agreed that there were no principal limits to government. No principal limits to government. So progressives that are running this early country in 1912 when he got elected, 1913, and socialists of today, they believe there's no principal limits to government. That's what they're doing today. As such, it was the state which determined the rights and liberties of individuals, not nature. That's going on today. The only difference, like I said before, between progressives and socialists was policy. Socialists wanted through a revolution, and progressives thought through, and we know why. Because the Americans weren't going to give up their freedoms. They had fought for it.
Yeah.
So here's a key passage. This is Frank Goodnow, and he wrote this American Conception of Liberty. Look it up and read it. You're not going to believe. You're not going to believe what this is. In a word, man is regarded now throughout Europe because they love that European, as of today, they love that European standard, just like they do today, as primarily a member of society and secondarily as an individual. The rights which he possesses are, it is believed, conferred upon him, not by his creator, but rather by the society to which he belongs. What they are is to be determined by the legislative authority in view of the needs of that society. Social expediency rather than natural rights is thus to determine the sphere of individual freedom of action. Holy shit!
Wow.
You listen. When I first saw Joe Biden do his first speech in Congress, I'm going to put it on this little computer here next week. He literally said, "We the people," like the Declaration says, we the people in this chamber. They truly believe it, folks. Woodrow Wilson. You want to listen to what Woodrow Wilson had to say?
I don't want after that.
Huh?
You do that one after that one.
All right. The Constitution of the United States had been made under the dominion of Newtonian theory. That's what I was talking about, Newton. So Newton was the guy that looked up and saw the universe and came up with gravity and stuff like that. You have only to read the papers of the Federalists to see the fact written on every page. The Constitution was founded on the law of gravitation. The government was to exist and move by virtue of the efficacy of checks and balances. The trouble with the theory is that government is not a machine, but a living thing. It falls not under the theory of universe, but under the theory of organic life. It is accountable to Darwin, not Newton. It is modified by its environment, necessitated by its task, shaped to the function by the sheer pressure of life. No living thing can have its organs offset against each other as checks and live. This was written from a man who became the President of the United States. This is a guy that taught at Princeton, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of literature that our leaders are reading from the Socialist Party. And here's the thing.
Saul Alinsky they're reading from.
Right. So you hear what this man's saying? Theory of Newton and the theory of Darwin. You want to know what Newton and Darwin are? They're men. Made by their creator.
Yep.
So how is Woodrow Wilson right about comparing what our creator says to us and putting us in a place of Darwin or Newton? Who are you? Our founding fathers were so smart. This man, I will give Woodrow Wilson, not FDR. Woodrow Wilson, I'll give him, because there wasn't a socialist communist party yet but by the time FDR was there, communist Russia had failed already. Their people were dying, they were starving, they were fighting out of fear, they were going to prison, political prison. He understood what that government did. This guy was still looking through rose-colored glasses. But our founding fathers knew for a just government to run, you had to understand the rights that your creator gave you as men. Go ahead.
These progressives have been slowly taking away our rights year after year. And people are clueless to what they're doing.
Oh, one more thing that Woodrow Wilson, I think it's Socialism and Democracy. He wrote a paper on that. Socialism and Democracy. Look that up. The other one is, what is progressive? He explains what progressive is. I have it right here. But I'm sorry, Dennis. In fundamental theory, socialism and Democrats are almost, if not quite, one and the same. They both rest on the bottom upon the absolute right of the community to determine its own destiny and that of its members. Men as communities are supreme over men as individuals. Limits of wisdom and convenience to the public control, there may be. Limits of principle, there are. Upon strict analysis, none. So you can't analyze what they're doing. And they are telling you right now, convenience to the public control, yeah, there's going to be. Principles,
And we finally read if you want to look about the progressive revolt, 23 of the American Constitution, its origins and developments. I suggest you take the time to read it. It's a very good chapter. It's a big book.
That's this book right here, and it's on our webpage. What a book.
Yeah, it's a great book to read. So I want to talk about mental health tonight. I was going to talk about something else, but when I got to work this morning, I heard that a young man shot himself in our parking lot and unfortunately passed away. And he was one of our mental health patients, and he passed, I believe. We have a crisis here in this country that affects 1 in 3 adults. So let's see how our Washington politicians are doing relating to mental health. So starting in 2019, they started some mental health legislation. There were 9 of them. Lower health care costs introduced by a Republican, never acted on. Rise, resilience, investment support, and expansion from Trauma Act introduced by a Democrat, never acted on. Mental health services for students of Act of 2020, introduced by a Democrat, passed the House, but not the Senate. Mental Health Parity Compliance Act, Democrat introduced, never acted on. Mental Health Professionals Workplace Shortage Loan Repayment Act of 2018, Republican introduced, never acted on. Overdose Prevention and Patient Safety Act, introduced by a Republican, passed the House, but not the Senate. A Democrat introduced a Medicaid Reentry Act, hasn't gone anywhere. And the last one we have is a Safe Step Act, introduced by a Republican and it's never gone anywhere. It was introduced, that's it. So do our politicians really care, really give a damn about the people with mental health problems? I mean, I'll let you decide, but just go back over what and you'll see for yourself that these people are not very good. They talk a good game to get your vote, but basically zero act on legislation. Zero. We can't make this stuff up, Jack. We have a mental health crisis here in America, and nothing is getting done by these lackluster politicians to make it better.
All they want to do is pass gun laws against it.
Yep. Go ahead.
I am getting so upset listening to you guys with this government. They don't care about us. What are they doing? They're doing nothing. And this progressivism, what is it called?
Well, it starts out as progressivism, and then it goes to the administrative state. And now, I mean, it's socialism now, bordering on communism.
But, years ago, you could see these people thinking about this stuff because they felt like they can do better for the people.
Right.
This government right now is
Don't care
not
about
doing
them.
that.
They care more
Why
about
are
values.
they doing this?
I'll
For
tell you.
themselves then.
I'll tell you in a little while why they're doing it. I have it right here. I will tell you tonight why they're doing it. Because it's from FDR,
This is
who should have known better.
It should make people angry.
Because they're not doing it for us.
Right. Hey folks, we have the numbers to support what we're saying, but look up the information yourself. I mean, we always tell you to research everything.
And
Don't believe me, research it.
I'm going to explain to you too why Trump was unable to drain the swamp.
See, our veterans, especially those who have served this country in Iraq and Afghanistan and all foreign wars, Vietnam, who didn't have a good welcome home, died by suicide. And in 2020, that number was 6,146 veterans. It's over 16 veterans with suicides each day. I think it's up to maybe 22 veterans a day commit suicide. I said it earlier. For the last 2 years, I've had the opportunity to work in a hospital that deals with mental health patients almost every day. The ranges of ages from 6 years old, to the elderly. It hits your heart when you hear stories about what people have gone through and why they can commit suicide. But tell me, what 6-year-old knows anything about suicide? And I think that's the way to go. It makes you. If it don't make you sad, you're. I don't know what to tell you. When you hear these stories, every story is different, but you think back, each story is the same. They feel left behind by society and believe the only way out is not to live anymore. How can life be that bad for a 6-year-old? They either want to kill somebody or want to take their own life. 6-year-olds might be watching. I can't fathom it. 17% of 16 to 17-year-olds suffer from mental health. That includes males, females, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. It's everyone. It just doesn't do one group of people. Depression affects everybody. And depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. Go ahead, Wink.
It's not only our Congress and our state legislators that are letting us down. It's this medical field. They
This medical field is terrible
now. Down.
There's no compassion in the medical field.
None.
Well, that's
great.
Listen, there's no empathy. There's no empathy in medical field because this, folks, is just the beginning of that. No, what's that? The Medicare that they want to give everybody.
Socialized.
So this is your socialized medicine, right here, front row. If you think it's going to turn more compassionate and empathetic to you as time goes on and it implements, no, this is as empathetic as it's going to get unless we change back to the way it was when my kids were little. As small as 20 years ago, I could bring my kids in to see a doctor when they didn't feel good, this, that, the other thing, whenever I needed to. My son Jack, he belongs to Special Olympics. Every kind of specialized doctor we need to see, done like that. Now, he's 31 years old in November. I can't get him to go see the doctor when he has an earache. Oh, we're not seeing patients that don't feel well. Well, I don't need a doctor if I don't. When I'm feeling fine, I don't need a doctor.
That's right.
They were like, "Oh, was he need his prescriptions updated?" We're like, "No, he's got an earache." Oh, we can't see him for 2 months. He doesn't feel good. Well,
They
by
wanna
then
see you over-
I'll have to take his head off
They
because
want
of
to
his
see
earache.
you over a video monitor and give you their diagnosis.
Yet they'll charge your insurance company the same amount.
Like $60 for one of them things. You know, when it comes to depression, every one of us at some time in our life become depressed. You know, divorce, job stress, financial stress. It's all there adding to the daily stress, which leads up to depression. 19% of the U.S. adults with mental illness have a substance use disorder. People are using opioids to try and beat their mental health system. The bad part about that is that some overdose and end up dying from that. Believe me, people, this shit is real. I worked as a police officer. I've seen it firsthand. I work in a hospital now. I see it firsthand. They're using Narcan almost every single day to bring people back to life. Every single day. The thing is we can all help. We can all help dealing with our family members and our friends with mental illness. We just have to get involved. You know, there's a list of several warning signs out there that you can immediately see. They're common signs. Feeling sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks. Drastic changes in mood or behavior. Personality or sleeping habits. Trying to harm or end one's life or making plans to do so. Significant weight loss or gain. Sudden overwhelming fear for no reason. I'm going to add one thing. Because when I worked in a jail, when an inmate wanted to commit suicide, he gave all his personal belongings away. And he was like at peace with himself. He knew he was going to do it, so he gave away all his personal belongings. So if a loved one, someone you know, is giving away personal belongings, that's just set a warning sign for you. But you need to reach out to these people daily. Tell them you love them. Tell them you care for them. Tell them that you need them in your life. And they can call you any time of the day, should they need you. Heck, reach out to us on Facebook. We got several. We have a Veterans Facebook. We have the United States Constitution Group. We have the Independent Constitution Bar. We have Stand United. We have ways for you to contact us. Reach out to them. There are places where they can all get help and call. For the veterans, the suicide prevention hotline is 1-800-273-8255. In each individual state and county you live in has services that can help a person who is contemplating taking their own life. The national hotline is 800-273-TALK. They can assist you immediately and find you a place near you to help you get on the right track. If you think about hurting yourself, reach out and call these people, especially veterans, especially young children. It's really sad. There's over 46 million people that are affected with mental health. Call and get the help that you need and deserve. We all need to be on alert for the people we love who have mental illness. As you see, since 2019, we've had what? COVID-19, right?
Mm.
That put a lot of mental health stress on all of us, especially these younger kids, the teenagers who can't, be out with their friends anymore. They'd be locked down in their houses. This whole thing was botched. Botched response by our federal government. Okay, hang in there. We will all get through this, and we will all fight to pass appropriate legislation that will help every person in this country who have mental health issues get the help they need. Jack?
All right. Now I'm getting all this information about progressivism from the Hillsdale College. This class I'm taking is Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution. This lecture here is about the administrative state and the New Deal from FDR. So what was this administrative state? This was a big jump from progressives, and they called it the administrative state, and I believe now when history goes back and shows what our government's doing today, it's going to be straight up, straight down the line, socialism. We haven't hit fascism or communism yet because I don't think they've decided which path they want to take. So, the administrative state is based on the rejection of the separations of powers. We got 3 branches of government, right? Legislative, executive,
judicial.
and judicial. All right? So, to get an administrative state, you can't believe in that. Instead, progressives and their New Deal successors argued that the Constitution must operate under the theory of organic life, with the part cooperating under the direction of a single, one overreaching will. So this guy Frank Goodnow, again, in these essays he writes, rather than the traditional 3 functions of government, legislative, executive, and judicial, there should only be 2, politics and administration. That's what I was looking for before. Goodnow argued that politics and administration match the mental operation of human beings. We decide what we want to do, that's the politics, and we devise and implement the means to achieve that object, administrative. So, in other words, politics was understood as the expression of the will of the state and concerned primarily with gauging and influencing public opinion.
That's how the Supreme Court's rule nowadays, public opinion.
Well, I'm going to get into that.
Hold on a second, Mike.
Sounds like they're trying to get rid of free will to me.
Yes. All right. So they understood the execution of the will of the state and the concerns primarily taking general laws passed by the president and Congress and translating them to particular solutions and problems of the day. So here's our beginning of bureaucracies. This is the guy that started it. All right. FDR started bureaucracies right here. This is the thought process that they were saying. So no more 3 branches of government, 2, just two branches, and they were, what the hell did I say? Politics and administration, right? Right. No more 3 branches of government, just the 2, and here's why. So, changing the law making in the United States, instead of issuing instructions to citizens, Congress started passing laws that act more like vision statements, which if you look at every president that runs for president every now and then, what does he got? He's got a vision, a list of vision that he wants to do.
Platform.
Which provide administrative agencies with broad goals. The regulators then are tasked to devise rules and instruct citizens. There's your bureaucracy. This is what we've been telling you. So in FDR's day, the administrative state, he started these bureaucracies that would now have 3 branches of government in them. To do this, administrative agencies had to violate the doctrine of separation of powers and exercise legislative, executive, and judicial powers. Amazing. So this is what FDR formulated, produced, and put into effect. Your first bureaucracy, which now they have 3 branches of government. So the characteristics of the progressive administrator. So this is what FDR and his brain tank, he had a group of guys, they used to be called the brain tank. This is what they thought. So characteristics of progressive administrators. So these guys, matter of fact, one of his biggest brain trust guys ended up being locked up for not paying his taxes for 5 years. He was a lawyer, he was disbarred, and he had to do 30 days in prison, in jail. So the progressives believed that there were 3 basic characteristics to good administrators. So if you wanted to be part of this bureaucracy, and if you wanted to run this bureaucracy, these are the 3 things they looked at for you to get this job. In charge of the FBI, the IRS, Dr. Fauci, the Attorney General, all of these things. These are the 3. First off, you had to be an expert. Modern society required scientific and technical expertise to legislate effectively. So you were an expert. Independent. To be a disinterested servant of the public good, administrator must be removed and protected from elections and ordinary process of politics. Meaning once you were appointed, you're there. We the people, the constituent that vote these other people in and out that are supposed to be running the government, who don't have the three branches of government anymore behind them, they don't have to listen to us. They've been appointed. 1,200 of them a year, every time there's a new election. 1,200 of these people are put through. Some of them are put in front of the Senate, and they have to be confirmed by the Senate. Some of them don't. Progressive. Administrators had to be true believers of progressive ideology, or you weren't going to get that job. You were not going to be part of that bureaucracy if you were not a progressive. So, Franklin Delano Roosevelt argued that the problem with his day was not political tyranny, but rather economic. So, again, he got elected when the Great Depression was there, and this was the first democratic, do not let a good crisis go to waste. This is economic tyranny. So now the government has to be in charge of production and how much people wanted it. So they were going to be in charge of how much you were allowed to make and how much the public wanted that certain thing. Sound like fascism? Sounds like fascism to me. And that's what he did. Government will be the instrument to liberate people from economic necessity. The liberation was to be accomplished through enlightened administration. All right? Which was just another one of his things. So, constitutional tenets needed to be accepted to build the administrative state. So, delegation of legislative power. Here's what I'm talking about, folks. The people we vote into Congress, the Senate, and your representatives. Congress needed to delegate its legislative power to the executive branch or administrative agency in order for them to enact regulation deemed necessary for public interest. Now, that was a true thing in the Constitution, but it was something like this. Congress would say, England is screwing us. We have to put a tariff on them. And they would put into law a tariff. Now, the executive office would say, yes, you're right. We have to I'm going to sign that bill. And the executive office would say how much the tariff was going to be. See that? So Congress said, yes, we're making that law, but we're putting off the fee to the executive branch. That was allowed. But they didn't do that. They took the next step forward. The next thing they had to do is judicial deference to expertise. So rather than review the facts and apply the law, courts needed to defer the administrative agencies within their policy area. So now, no longer do facts come into the Supreme Court. This is what me and Dennis have been telling you. You own a business. The government finds you. You want to fight it. You go all the way to the Supreme Court. You're going to lose because of FDR. Because this bureaucracy has all three branches of government. They're allowed to make the law, enforce the law, and make the penalty of the law. They're allowed to do all of it. So once you go in front of the Supreme Court, that's why we don't need a Supreme Court anymore. These people don't make decisions on anything. We don't know. Talk to the expert in charge of the bureaucracy. Done. We're finished with it. So that was the New Deal. And here was the first thing, 1942, Wickard and Filbert. This guy Wickard owned a farm. Government said, listen, you're only allowed to make 20,000 pounds of 10,000 pounds of flour. Well, this guy made 20, and he kept the other 10 for himself, for fodder, personal use, feed his animals, shit like that. But the government said, you can't do that because we're telling the American people they can only request 10,000 pounds from you. You're only allowed to make 10,000 pounds of it. You made 20, we fined you. He fought them in 1942, lost. Supreme Court sided with the bureaucracy, and that, my friends, was the beginning of your bureaucracy that we have today. So now it went from administrative state, in my opinion, we do not have an administrative state anymore. We have what is known as socialism. And it is slowly going, no, not too slowly anymore. I think it's going from socialism right over to fascism because our government is telling these people to do this all the time. So, in my conclusion, I'm done finally. The administrative state is an oligarch. Our government is run like oligarch. Each little bureaucracy is an oligarch. These people make massive amount of money from us. They make the rules, they enforce the laws, and they set the fines. They do everything for themselves. And they have to believe it. So, in theory, the founders of the administrative state aimed to create an aristocrat of technical and scientific elite. But they didn't. It went past. In practice, the administrative state operates as an oligarch, managed by elite class of administrators who have become increasingly insulated, and distinct from ordinary Americans. How many times have we said that? Who the hell do these people think they are? Well, this is who they think they are. They're running this country. They're running our government. These representatives and senators, you know what they think? When they come in there and they say something to them, you can see it on TV.
And
The director of FBI, they go, and this guy's going like this. Talk to my ass, my head hurts, dude.
Yeah.
I'm going back to my office. I'm doing what I want.
And they're running this country into the ground.
So, after listening to what we have here and how this government, so now this government, you see how it's run. The bureaucracy has all the power. It's this big. Government is this big. The constituents around it, we can't get in because we try and elect it. So that's why these elections are important. We have to start electing people in here that understand the business that they're in, the history of this country. Understand where your government comes from. Again, like the guy said last week, electing the lesser of two evils is still electing evil. Start to ask these people these questions. If they don't know it, ask them, why should I vote you in? All right, maybe it might be better at first than these socialists, but eventually they're going to switch. Do you understand why Trump could not drain the swamp? Because he wasn't draining political parties. He had to drain an entire 1,200 bureaucracies that aren't allowed to have that. You ask yourself every time you watch the news, why is that person doing that to Trump? He's part of Trump appointed him because he had to be a progressive, or he was not going to get whoever these directors are were progressives from the beginning, and they weren't going to change because Trump appointed them. They will never change. They can't change. It's their DNA. That's the DNA makeup. They're progressives. They do not believe in the Declaration of Independence. They definitely don't believe in the Constitution, and they do not believe in your freedoms as an individual person. Society is more important than your individual rights. That's what our government is. That's why a guy like Trump can't win, and that's why we tell you it's not so important to have a great ruler instead of great laws.
Leaders come and go.
He's being executed. This guy is being marched down. They're ripping all his medals and everything off of him in front of us to let us know this is what we can do to this guy. Imagine how we can squash you. We'll put you under that wheel and we will grind you till no. Listen, people, we tell you to read the Constitution. Read the Constitution, because these people that are running the country do not know it. Ask them questions about it. Ask them what the three branches of government are. They may only tell you two.
They might only tell you one.
They might tell you the political and administrative. Because that's what they were taught in school.
You done?
That's it, folks. Take it for what it's worth. That was my class from Hillsdale College. It went all the way from the founding of our government through the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln, which I talked about, a few weeks ago, to here is the introduction to progressive socialist through the administrative. This is why Washington D.C. is bulletproof, because it's got 1,200 layers of bureaucracies. 1,200, and the people that we elect, these representatives, these senators, president, their power is slowly being lifted away. and these lifetime appointments are taking over.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed our 2 topics tonight. 2 serious issues. They're not being talked about in mainstream media. We also want you to know that midterm elections are here before we know it.
Yeah.
Under 50 days now.
Yeah.
Under 50 days. I also want to thank all the people on Facebook that listen to us and reach out. Every week, every Sunday night, I ask a question, and I get so many responses. And I try to get back to all of you that I can. Sometimes I can't, but we appreciate it. I'll keep asking those questions. So keep sending the response in. Now's the time for the people to decide who you're going to vote for. It's that crunch time. Do your research on all these candidates and vote for the person that looks out for you and your beliefs. You have to know who you're voting for. You have to. Just like the freaking fence sitter we have here in South Carolina, Lindsey Graham.
He's got to go.
He'll never get my vote.
I'm hoping to run against him. I'll do 2 years in the state. I'll go run for him. It'll be 4 years from now.
So again, do your research. Don't listen to party leaders who tell you how to vote. That's not a democratic election, but a dictatorship. Be your own person, because this country needs you to vote.
Ask them those questions to see if they understand what job they're going into. They're going into a job that is your responsibility.
Make sure they know they work for you.
They work for you. Make sure they understand how they work for you. And, see what they think about the Constitution and Declaration. Ask them.
Share this podcast with your friends and family. Most important, stay safe. That's important. So before we end, Mike, can you bless our podcast? Can you bow your heads?
Psalms 27:14. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thy heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Let's pray. Please, Lord, bless and protect this new party, this podcast, and all that work on it, and all that listen to it. Lord, please have mercy on this nation and have our leaders do your will. We're scared, Lord. Please help us. We just don't think we can meet tomorrow's challenges. In our own power, we know we're too weak. But we have faith. You will enable us to meet whatever challenges life brings. We'll wait for you, Lord, to empower us with your spirit. Strengthen our hearts, Lord. We pray this in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Again, thanks for listening. Always remember, knowledge is power. And we'll see you next Thursday at the Tavern.
Woohoo! Good job.
Let's see. You do it so this way.
Host. Yep. Never delete. Host. And that's it. Let me do this one.